Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Dinosaur Island. Let's get started. For today's episode, we're going to be focusing on one specific character. The Parasaurolophus that we saw in the last episode. We also just happened to find out a name for this creature, and we ended up with Iris because it fits her character. So we're going to be following Iris through the entire episode and see what kind of character we're going to be dealing with through the series because, well, she's a main character. Well, without further ado, let's get started. Well, we're already getting started, but let's go ahead and cut to another scene or whatever. We see Iris stumble upon what seems to be like a very, very dried up pond and riverbank and another pond. We don't know why it's dried up, but it's not. But that's not what the main talk of the episode is. So she decides to move on from that. Over by where Iris is at right now, which seems to be a giant tree, she seems to be doing something very, very strange. She seems to be covering up something. Something very, very extraordinary. I don't know if the camera can pick this up, but Iris is hiding a nest. So it appears that she has made it with some male of her kind, a male Parasaurolophus, but he is nowhere to be found, so we assume that he didn't make it, or another animal or dinosaur ate him. But she has a nest, and it looks like it's pretty new, so it's safe to say that Iris is a mother. Which is kind of strange because she is a pretty young adult female, but who cares? This seems to be her home. This tree is pretty luscious. I wouldn't see why she would like this home. It has plenty of food around here, and she's actually pretty hungry, so she begins to feed. But what Iris doesn't know is that she is being stalked by two very familiar predators that you should already know. Of course, Buck and Scarlet, the two T-Rexes. Somehow these mated T-Rexes always find a way to be in these episodes, even though we planned for them not to be in them. But I guess they're a little too special for us not to include them. So, now, back to the episode and the purpose of this. They begin to stalk Iris. And one goes onto the other side of her. And then Scarlet goes to the other. But unfortunately for Iris and the two T-Rexes, another predator was stalking them as well. Scar, the Megaraptor. Turns out he survived. We don't know how, but he did. And he looks like he's doing very, very well since the last time we saw him. And he begins to hunt her down as well. Buck moves in to try to grab Iris, but then he doesn't notice the big tree underneath him, and he steps on it. Iris wakes up, worried about her eggs and worried about her life at the same time. She has no choice but to run. Scarlet chases after her. Buck follows. And secretly Scar follows as well, trying to be as quiet as he possibly can. Iris has a good idea, but she doesn't know if she'll make it out alive if she does this. But she goes into the rubbish and hides from the predators that's trying to catch. The predators follow. The predators realize that they're in a dead forest. That's why there's so many branches, trees, and so much fallen stuff down here. Buck just gets a little too close to the camera just then. Buck, trying to be as quiet as he possibly can, he accidentally snaps a tree branch. Alarming Scarlet, she charges. Buck tries to stop her because where they're fighting and chasing each other is a cliff, and if one of them falls, it's not going to end well for one of them. While the predators are distracted, Iris runs for her life. Scar, knowing if he doesn't do something quick, he might die. So then he jukes her and move out the way. Fortunately for Scarlet, she's too big and can't stop herself. And then fortunately for her, she's not dead. Just very, very, very severely wounded. Luckily, the hill wasn't that steep, so she'll be fine. She'll recover in like 1 week, and she'll be back up and running once again. Buck cries in sadness, for he knows Scarlet almost died. And now the T-Rexes are scared, or even more scared than ever. Meanwhile, by Iris's nest, she finally arrives back at her nest. But before she chills out, or do whatever Parasaurolophus do, she has to check on her eggs. Still, the camera's not picking this up, but the eggs are perfectly fine. Though one is rotten, so she eats it. This gives the mother, for all dinosaurs, extra protein. She covers them back up because she knows that this winter is even worse than all the other winters before. For if she doesn't cover them up, they might freeze. Now that she's double-checked that her eggs are safe, she can go find some water or some resources that she can use to keep herself alive. She arrives back at the dried up pond, well, because there was a little bit of water that is enough for one Parasaurolophus. So she begins to drink. She's had her fill, and she begins to walk away. Being quick and nimble isn't always going to work all the time. Well, because there's predators and herbivores that can accidentally kill her. Well, even though she's one of the largest on this island of the Parasaurolophus we've recorded, she still isn't one of the biggest. So she still must be careful. She returns back to her nest for some reason, but she goes past it because for some reason we don't. Whilst looking for food, she runs into two herbivores. One is an Ankylosaurus, and the one is a Triceratops. Like any other smart dinosaur would do, she walks past them, because even though they probably won't harm her or in the slightest, they still can get aggressive because it's mating season. So she walks past. A few moments later, she is still walking. We really don't know why her food area or food supplies is really this far, but it is what it is, so who cares? Finally, she makes it to her destination. We can kind of see why her destination is this far. This lush green grass is pretty rare on the island. And plus, it's winter season, so it's triple rare. But nonetheless, she begins to feed. After getting her full, she returns back to her nest. She arrives back at her nest, but before she lays down and takes a rest, she does something extraordinary. She climbs to the highest peak of the mountain, hill that she lives on, and roars in victory for living another day and surviving another day on Dinosaur Island.